The emergency sirens blared through the cockpit as Marcus Reeves fought to maintain control of his spacecraft. The Odyssey's engines whined in protest, systems failing one by one as the unknown planet's gravitational field pulled him into its atmosphere. Mayday, Mayday. This is Captain Marcus Reeves of the Earth exploration vessel Odyssey. I'm experiencing catastrophic system failure and initiating emergency landing procedures on uncharted planet at coordinates. The communication system died with a final spark, cutting off his distress call. Marcus gritted his teeth as the ship plummeted through purple-hued clouds. The heat shield glowed orange around the viewport, and sweat beaded on his forehead despite the failing life support systems. With remarkable composure for a man facing potential death, he worked the manual controls, fighting for each meter of controlled descent. The impact came harder than he'd hoped. Metal screamed against stone as the Odyssey carved a kilometer-long trench across an emerald field, finally coming to rest at the edge of a crystalline forest unlike anything on Earth. Marcus's world went black. He awoke to the sensation of cool fingers against his temple. When his vision cleared, he found himself staring into the most extraordinary eyes he'd ever seen, large, almond-shaped, with vertical pupils and irises the color of molten gold. They belonged to a woman, no, not a human woman, with delicate features, skin the shade of jade, and flowing hair like liquid fire cascading past her shoulders. "You live," she said, her voice melodic with an accent he couldn't place. "Your vessel's descent was visible across half the realm. You are fortunate I reached you before the Sentinels." Marcus tried to sit up, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Where am I? Who are you?" The woman, the being, straightened, revealing an elaborate gown that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Atop her crimson hair sat a delicate crown of intertwined crystal and metal. "I am Alara, sovereign queen of the Azurian people. You have crashed upon our world, human. The first of your kind to reach us." Marcus stared, his scientific mind racing to process what his eyes were seeing. I'm Captain Marcus Reeves, from Earth. Exploration Division." He glanced around, realizing he was no longer in his ship but in some sort of chamber with walls that seemed to pulse with gentle light. "My ship is severely damaged but salvageable," Alara said. "I have ordered it moved to a secure location. The question remains what to do with you, Marcus Reeves of Earth." Despite her alien appearance, there was something in her expression, curiosity, perhaps, that gave Marcus hope. "I meant no intrusion, Your Majesty. I was mapping this sector when my systems malfunctioned." Alara studied him with those golden eyes. "Most worlds would execute a potential invader immediately. Some of my advisors suggested precisely that." Marcus swallowed hard. "And what do you suggest?" A smile curved her green lips, revealing teeth with a slight pearlescent sheen. "I find myself curious. No outsider has visited Azuria in 10 generations. You present an opportunity to learn of the universe beyond our isolation." She approached, the fabric of her gown flowing like water. "Rest and recover your strength. When you are able, I will show you our world and assist with your vessel's repairs. In exchange, you will share knowledge of your Earth." "That seems more than fair," Marcus said, relaxing slightly despite the strangeness of his situation. "There is one condition," Alara added, her expression growing serious. "You must remain within the palace grounds under my protection. Azuria holds dangers you cannot comprehend, and not all of my people share my interest in outsiders." As she spoke, a tall, stern-faced Azurian entered the chamber, casting a disapproving glance at Marcus before addressing the queen in a language of musical tones and clicks. "My chief advisor, the Los, believes I am being reckless," Alara explained after responding curtly to the advisor. "Perhaps I am. But something tells me your arrival is significant, Marcus Reeves." She extended her jade hand. "Can I trust you to abide by my conditions?" Marcus looked at her offered hand, then back to those fascinating golden eyes. Something inexplicable passed between them, a connection that transcended their different worlds and species. "You have my word, Queen Alara," he said, taking her hand. Her skin was cool to the touch, with a subtle texture like finest silk. "And my gratitude." Little did either of them know that this simple agreement would set in motion events that would challenge the foundations of Azurian society and test the limits of what both a queen and an explorer would sacrifice for love. 2 Azurian moons cast their pale blue light across the palace gardens as Marcus studied the star patterns above. After 3 weeks on this alien world, the constellations were becoming familiar, though no less wondrous. He traced them with his finger, creating mental maps to add to his data logs. "The bright cluster there is what we call the Eye of the Ancient," Alara's voice came from behind him. "Legend says it watches over all Azurians who venture beyond our world." Marcus turned to see the queen approaching along the crystal path. Without her formal regalia, dressed only in a simple flowing gown, she looked less like a sovereign and more like the woman he'd come to know during their daily conversations. "On Earth, we'd call that Cassiopeia," he replied. "Though from this angle, it does look more like an eye." Alara sat beside him on the garden bench, close enough that he could detect the subtle fragrance that seemed unique to her, like jasmine with an undercurrent of something electric. Her crimson hair appeared almost black in the moonlight, falling in waves around her jade shoulders. "Your ship repairs progress well," she said. "The Los informs me the propulsion system should be operational within another cycle." Marcus nodded, suddenly aware of a tightness in his chest. "I should be grateful. Yet you don't seem pleased." He met her golden gaze. "Scientific curiosity wants me to return home with my discoveries." But, she prompted when he fell silent. "I've never encountered anything like Azuria. Like your people. Like you." The air between them seemed to vibrate with unspoken words. Alara's hand moved toward his, then hesitated. "The High Council questions my decision to keep you here," she said softly. "They fear outside influence. Our isolation has preserved our way of life for millennia." "And what do you fear, Alara?" The use of her name without title hung in the air. Weeks ago, it would have been unthinkable. Now, something had shifted between them. "I fear." She began, then gave a small, almost human laugh. "I fear that when you leave, you will take something of Azuria with you that cannot be replaced." Marcus reached across the small space between them, his fingers grazing her cool skin. "And if I don't want to leave?" The touch sent a visible ripple across Alara's skin, a bioluminescent response that illuminated her jade complexion with a subtle glow. She didn't pull away. "There has never been unity between our kinds," she whispered. "It is forbidden." "Why?" "Our biologies are different. Our lifespans. Our responsibilities. I am bound to my world as you are to yours." Yet even as she listed the obstacles, her fingers intertwined with his. The glow beneath her skin intensified, reaching up her arm in delicate patterns. "Alara," he said her name like a prayer. "Where I come from, differences are celebrated, not feared." Her golden eyes searched his face. "My advisors warn that I am neglecting my duties. That I spend too many hours in your company. Are they right?" Instead of answering, she moved closer. The luminescence beneath her skin pulsed in rhythm with her quickening heartbeat. "The laws of my ancestors mean nothing when I'm with you," she confessed. "This feeling, it defies our traditions." Marcus hesitated only a moment before leaning forward. Their lips met, human warmth against Azurian cool, and the garden around them seemed to respond, crystal formations humming in harmonic resonance. Neither noticed the shadow that moved along the garden wall, nor heard the hurried footsteps retreating toward the council chambers with news that would soon shatter their newfound intimacy. In that moment, there existed only the impossible connection between them, a bridge between worlds that both would soon be asked to pay dearly for crossing. The grand chamber of the Azurian High Council pulsed with angry light as Elara faced her 12 advisors. Their jade faces were set in expressions ranging from disappointment to outright hostility. "Your behavior is unprecedented, my queen," Elder Vexus said, his ancient voice carrying through the crystalline chamber. "To share your quarters with the outsider." "I have broken no sacred law," Elara interrupted, her posture regal despite the accusation. The crown upon her crimson hair seemed to flare with her emotion. "You court disaster," Delos added. "The human will leave our world and take knowledge of our people with him. Knowledge that could endanger us all." Elara's golden eyes flashed. "Marcus has shown nothing but respect for our customs." "And yet you consider telling him of the heart," Vexus said quietly. "We have sensed your thoughts through the connection. You cannot deny it." A murmur rippled through the council. Elara's bioluminescence flared in patterns betraying her inner turmoil. "Leave us," she commanded. The council members exchanged glances but obeyed their sovereign, filing out of the chamber. Alone, Elara moved to the center of the room where a circular platform glowed with pulsing blue light. She placed her palm upon it, and the floor beneath her became transparent, revealing the planet's core far below, a massive crystal heart pulsating with energy that sent glowing tendrils throughout the world. "You shouldn't be here," she said without turning. Marcus stepped from the shadows where he'd been watching. "Your guard, Krill, thought I should know what was happening." "Krill oversteps," Elara said, though without anger. Marcus approached cautiously. "What is that?" he asked, gazing down at the crystal heart. Elara hesitated, then made her decision. "The source of all Azurian life. The sacred heart. It connects us, sustains us, gives us our abilities." She turned to him, her face solemn. "No outsider has ever been permitted this knowledge." Marcus understood the significance immediately. "Why show me?" "Because I want you to understand what I risk," she whispered. "What we risk." She took his hands in hers, pressing them to the jade skin above her sternum. Beneath his fingertips, he could feel a rhythmic pulse that synchronized with the giant crystal below. "We are all connected to it," she explained. "From birth until crystallization, what you would call death. It is why we can communicate without words, why our emotions affect our environment, why our technology seems like magic to outsiders." Marcus felt the weight of this revelation. "The council believes I'll expose this secret." "They fear what they don't understand," Elara said. "As all beings do." Her golden eyes held his gaze. "But I understand you, Marcus Reeves. Better perhaps than I understand myself any longer." She drew him closer, the luminescence beneath her skin pulsing faster. "Tonight, I want to share more than knowledge with you." Their lips met, and this time there was an urgency that hadn't been there before. Elara's cool fingers traced the unfamiliar contours of his human body as his warm hands explored the glowing patterns across her jade skin. Where they touched, light bloomed, a visual manifestation of the connection deepening between them. As they surrendered to their desire, neither noticed that their private moment was not as private as they believed. High above, in a concealed observation dome, the entire council watched in silence, their decision already made. The human had learned the sacred secret, and by the ancient laws of Azuria, there was only one possible sentence for them both. Crystallization. The crystallization chamber gleamed with cold, unforgiving light. Ancient machinery hummed around its perimeter, technology developed millennia ago for Azuria's most severe punishment. Elara stood in the center, her wrists bound with glowing restraints, while Marcus struggled against 4 sentinel guards. "This is madness," he shouted. "You can't do this to your own queen." Elder Vexus stepped forward, his aged face impassive. "Queen Elara knew the consequences of revealing our sacred secret. The law is absolute, even for monarchs. Ilara's golden eyes found Marcus across the chamber. Despite her predicament, she maintained her regal bearing. The crown had been removed from her crimson hair, which now hung loose around her jade shoulders. "Marcus," she said with quiet dignity. "Be still. Listen to her, human," the Los said coldly. "Your sentence has been commuted to exile, out of respect for the Queen's wishes. You should be grateful." Marcus ceased struggling, but his eyes never left Ilara's. "I won't leave you." "You must," she replied. "For both our worlds." Vexus raised his hands, and the chamber's crystals pulsed in response. "The crystallization process will begin shortly. The human will be escorted to his repaired vessel." "Allow us a moment," Ilara commanded, her voice still carrying the authority of a sovereign. After a hesitant pause, Vexus nodded. The guards released Marcus but remained nearby as he rushed to Ilara's side. "This is my fault," he whispered, touching her face. "I should never have come here." Ilara's bioluminescence flickered beneath her skin at his touch. "No, Marcus. You gave me something I never knew I needed, a glimpse of a universe beyond duty and tradition." "There has to be another way," he insisted. "Let me speak to the council. I'll swear never to reveal your secret." She shook her head, a sad smile playing on her lips. "The decision is made. But know this," her voice dropped to a whisper only he could hear. "Crystallization is not death for Azurians. It is transformation. My consciousness will endure, though dormant, perhaps for centuries." Hope flared in Marcus's eyes. "Then it can be reversed?" "Theoretically. But only with technology lost to us ages ago." She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. "I have something for you." From within her ceremonial robes, she produced a small crystal that pulsed with the same rhythm as the planet's heart. "A fragment of our sacred power. On Earth, study it. Understand it. Perhaps one day." The guards moved forward as she pressed the crystal into his palm. "Time is up," the Los announced. "I will find a way back to you," Marcus vowed, his fingers closing around the crystal. "No matter how long it takes." "I know," she whispered, and kissed him one last time. As their lips touched, her bioluminescence flared brilliantly, temporarily blinding everyone in the chamber. When the light faded, Marcus found himself being dragged toward the exit. Ilara stood tall in the center of the chamber, her golden eyes fixed on him with an expression of such love and sorrow that it threatened to break him. "Begin the process," Vexus ordered. Energy surged through the chamber. Crystalline formations began growing upward from the floor, encasing Ilara's feet, then her legs. She never flinched, never looked away from Marcus as the transformation climbed her body. The last thing Marcus saw before being forced from the chamber was Ilara's face, serene, determined, and still radiating the light of her inner spirit, as the crystal claimed her completely, transforming his alien queen into a perfect statue of living stone. 5 Earth years had passed since Marcus Reeves had been forcibly returned to his home planet. 5 years of obsessive research, of sleepless nights studying the crystal Ilara had given him, of analyzing its properties and developing technology that might interact with the alien power source. Now he stood once again on Azurian soil, his modified spacecraft behind him, facing a patrol of sentinel guards whose weapons were trained on his heart. "I come in peace," Marcus said, raising his hands. From one palm, Ilara's crystal pulsed with increasing intensity the closer he got to the planet's core. "I seek audience with the High Council." The sentinels exchanged uncertain glances. This human was supposed to be a part of their history, not their present. "The human returns," a familiar voice announced. The Lo stepped forward, his jade features now lined with age. "You were exiled permanently, Marcus Reeves." "Yet here I stand," Marcus replied evenly. "With technology your world has never seen." He gestured to the equipment strapped to his back. Technology that might restore your queen. Murmurs rippled through the sentinels. In the years since Alara's crystallization, Azuria had been ruled by committee, with the High Council unable to agree on a successor. The crystallized form of their queen had become a shrine, a reminder of the price of forbidden knowledge. Thalas's eyes narrowed. You risk death by coming here. For Alara, I'd risk anything, Marcus said. You know that. Something shifted in the advisor's expression, perhaps recognition of a devotion that mirrored the Azurians' connection to their sacred heart. The council will never agree, the Low said, but more softly. Then don't ask them, Marcus replied. Take me to her. Let me try. If I fail, execute me, I have nothing to return to on Earth anyway. After a long moment, the Los made his decision. Follow me. They moved through the crystal city in silence, avoiding the main thoroughfares. Finally, they entered a chamber Marcus had never seen, smaller than the crystallization room, with a single beam of light illuminating its center where Alara stood frozen in translucent stone, her expression still one of serene determination. Marcus approached slowly, reverently. She's beautiful, he whispered, touching the cool crystal surface of her cheek. She was a great queen, the Los acknowledged. Perhaps our greatest. She will be again. Marcus removed his equipment, an array of devices built around Alara's crystal. He positioned them carefully around her crystallized form, then activated the primary controller. Energy pulsed from the devices, creating a field that resonated with the same frequency as the planet's heart. The crystal that had been Alara began to vibrate subtly, then glow with increasing intensity. It's working, Marcus breathed as hairline fractures appeared across the surface of the statue. Suddenly, the chamber door burst open. Elder Vexus and council guards rushed in. Stop this sacrilege, the elder commanded. But it was too late. With a sound like breaking glass, the crystal shattered, falling away from Alara's form like water. She collapsed forward, and Marcus caught her in his arms. Golden eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on his face. Marcus, she whispered, her voice hoarse from years of silence. You came back. I promised I would, he replied, tears streaming down his face. The guards surrounded them, weapons ready, but hesitated when Alara raised her hand weakly. My queen, Vexus gasped, recognition dawning that the impossible had occurred. Alara stood shakily, supported by Marcus. Her jade skin was dull, her crimson hair lusterless, but her eyes burned with renewed purpose as she faced her council. The time of isolation is over, she declared. Marcus has proven that different worlds can come together, for knowledge, for progress. She took his hand firmly in hers. And for love.